Hello, welcome back to our build. I'm Mark, and this is my son Kendall, and we're going to be continuing our Trail 70 build here with our aftermarket frame. We're going to pull all of our parts, and we're going to see which ones are silver, and because we're going with our black theme, so anything that's painted silver. So, like for instance, this chrome strip. We've got our front end assembly. We've got our fork tube blowers. We're going to make those black and hubs and all of our parts and pieces. So we've got quite a bit of work in front of us here, just prepping stuff, getting stuff ready before we can actually do the assemble. But we got our motor here. We've got our frame on our motor. It's just temporarily mocked up right now, just to kind of get a good idea what it looks like. And I think it's turning out pretty good. We've got the coverage turned out really well. We'll have to pull off of our masking tape, make sure that all worked out good, and we'll start getting into the details. So what do you think, Kendall? What do you think we got going so far? You like what you're doing?
Yeah, it's great.
Great, yeah. What about it so great? What do you like?
Good. The color matching's really nice.
Okay.
Matte color. It's pretty good.
Sweet. All right, we'll dig in. So we've got a lot of our parts and pieces pulled. We tried to pull out everything that we thought would be in our next steps here, and also everything that we're going to have to paint with our black. So kind of our rule of thumb that we're following with this project is that anything that's silver or chrome, we're going to paint black. So we've got our front end assembly. We've got our hubs, sprocket. We're going to use some of our 30mm headlight bucket ears. We get these painted black. Now we've got our chrome fenders, and anything chrome is going to be the hardest thing to paint, keep the paint to stick. So we're going to have to hit these in the sandblaster pretty hard to be able to get a tooth, so that paint will stick to this. And some of our other chrome pieces too. We've got our chrome strip, so we'll have to sandblast the heck out of that to get that enamel to stick to it well. Because one thing we don't want is we don't want to have bad prep. We don't want it to scratch or flake off, and then you can see silver, and that just doesn't look good down the road. So that we'll have to work with. And we've got our horn here with our little stainless piece here. We'll paint that. We've got our levers. We've got our kickstart, our foot brake. These are all chrome. We'll have to dig our sandblaster out and get these sandblasted. So the next part of the video is just going to be kind of a montage of us going through these parts and pieces. Maybe we'll slow down and we'll show us how to tape some stuff off that makes it easier for people that haven't done it before. But we're going to dig in and follow along. Oh, Kendall, how's it going?
Good. Taking a while, but we'll be done soon.
All right, yeah, when you're trying to paint chrome parts, which is kind of like the worst thing to do, you just got to hit that thing as hard as you can, get down to the nickel or even some bare metal, but you got to get all that, everywhere you want the paint to stick, that's where you got to get the sandblast, so it's a lot of work. So, all right, keep going, looks good. It's time consuming. So we got all of our paint out of our paint rack. We've got them all laid out here in front. So this represents almost everything. I'm sure there's something else we forgot to paint. And it seems like we've got maybe one or two parts we may have to touch up and fix a couple little runs on. But other than that, we got everything out and we're ready to go. So now we're starting final assembly. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably mount the frame to the motor. And we'll get that all buttoned up. And then we'll probably start with our front end assembly here and then the rear, and we'll just start bringing parts to it.
I'm going to put back together the stator assembly onto the motor before we even really get the frame on. That's what I'm going to do.
One thing to double check when you're putting your motor in is when they're shipped with these little caps right here that cover the crankcase breather that's inside right here. So it's easy to do. If you leave this on, it's going to create a lot of crankcase pressure. And sometimes that could blow out some of the seals and make some of the seals leak. So just double check to make sure you get your little breather hose on there, and that it also doesn't get pinched when you're bolting down your frame onto your motor. All right, so now we'll throw the engine bolts on. So we got a flat washer, and then a lock washer, and then a nut. Oh wait, we're forgetting one really important step right now. So what we want to do is, since we painted this motor, and then the frame we have here, I didn't look to see what the frame mounts have, but we need to make sure that we clean off any paint so that way we get a good continuity. So we have a good ground from our frame to our engine. So let's back those off a second before we get too far. And we're gonna clean off the surfaces to make sure we got good contact. Well, Kendall's holding it here. We wanted to go over the detail. You always want the frame to be able to have good continuity to the motor. So we've got our frame mounts here, and you can see there's paint over top of all of this, and we don't want that to isolate it from the motor. So what we're going to do is we're going to sand down these surfaces to make sure we get all the paint off, all these 4 touch-up points, and then also on the motor there. So that way we can get good continuity through the engine to the frame, so we can get a good ground. All right, Kendall, so now we're ready to pack our bearings and install the bearings on our triple tree. So I think this is the first time you've probably packed bearings, right?
Yep.
All right, so we don't have a bearing packer here to pack it, so we're gonna have to do it old school way. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna grab the grease, open it up. We're going to take a good fingerful and put it in the palm of your hand. Oh, there's some crud in there. All right. Yep. So get that in the palm of your hand there, and then we'll grab the bearing, and we just need to work the grease in between the little openings there. Yep. So shove that in there. So you know you're doing good when you see the grease start to squeeze out of the needle bearings. So we're going to try to squeeze it between the two bearing carrier. There you go. See it?
Yep.
That's what you're looking for. So now if you ever do a trailer or a front wheel drive car or anything, now you know how to do it. And then also, before get ready to put it on or in here, just go around and make sure you can see good grease, and then try to turn it in your hand. Like, you rotate the bearing, so hold on to the ID and try to spin the OD. So like shove 2 fingers in there you go. Now and then turn it, try to work some of the grease into the needles. Is it working? There you go. And then just grab a little bit and then shove the grease right in on the needle bearings now for the next step. There you go. Okay, so now important for these, there's an upper and a lower. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and install that one on the lower. So we're gonna there's 2 ways to do it. We're either gonna the best way to do is if we had a bearing, pretty much a pipe. So we pop that on there. All right, so what we would do is we would take that pipe and then hit it down, or there's a punch. You can go around and gently punch the outside. You just gotta make sure that when you do that on the bearing, that sometimes that surface gets to be just a little bit big, and it's a good idea to run like a light sandpaper over top of it. So we'll double check how that's going. And then we've got our other bearing, which is the smaller diameter here, that will go on top. So we'll go ahead and pack that. And then we'll tap that bearing on. And you can also, another method to do is you can take this whole assembly and you can put it up in here and then turn that jam nut, and that'll pull it together. You got to be a little careful because you can, it's a lot of tension. So you want to break any of your bearings. All right, so now we have our frame already preloaded with our races here. So I got a set just so we kind of know what they look like. So these races are matched to the bearing, and those get pressed inside the neck here for the upper and the lower. So this one we already kind of did it ahead of time, so we're ready to go. But we do have another video that if you want to see that in detail, we'll put that link for that video in the description. So these are in already, so grab that greasy top bearing. I'll hold that up in here, so get that on there. Perfect. And then I'll get our dust cover and our jam nut. We will tighten this guy up. Yeah, you can probably go ahead and lose the greasy gloves. Well, there's a lot of threads on here. Okay, so now we're ready to put a little preload on our jam nut. Okay, go ahead and pitch those. Here, why don't you grab... We'll go ahead and throw away these greasy rags so we don't get grease all over the shop accidentally, or ourselves. Those away for me, please.
Yep.
And then it's always a good idea to always keep your cover on your grease, no matter what you're doing. Just it keeps crap from falling in there. Okay, so now we need to bring this over to the steering stop, and what we're going to do is we're going to get a flathead screwdriver, and we're just going to tap this until we feel like we've got good load on here. So what we're going to do when you set this up is you really want to set it up, and Kendall, you want to feel like just a slight amount of drag in your bearing. Now this is also important that you want to check this out after the first few bits of riding, because sometimes these races don't get pressed in all the way, and when you're riding you're like, hey, you can work it tighter, and then this will loosen up. So sometimes if you feel like you got a little shake in your front end, this is typically the culprit all the time, where parts have kind of settled. Now this is loose, and you got to take your top plate off and tap this. But all right, so we'll go here, put the flathead right in there, and just give it a couple nice good taps. Yep, kind of walk it around. All right, let's see what we got for preload. Feel that. How's that feel? Yeah, you can hear the grease work its way in even more now. All right. Let's go a little more. All right, let's try this. There we go. So now I'm feeling just a light amount of resistance. Feel that. Awesome. Okay, I think now we're ready to slide our forks in, get our top end assembly going. Okay, so now we're ready to put our front, we got it painted black to match the rest of our parts. And we don't have our rims yet back from the powder coater, so we're just gonna put the assembly in as a placeholder. Eventually we'll be taking this hub apart to be able to get the rims on. But so right now we've got these loose. Okay, I guess a little looser. So we're gonna slide that up in there. Got it. There we go. All right, somewhere around there. Now next, hold it. Okay, so next we'll take our top plate, and what we want to watch out for on this is there's these bosses here and here. And when you go to put this on, you want to make sure that they're in that little pocket in the seat. So these holes here are this diameter for that and for on top of that. Okay, so we got our top plate. We're going to make sure that we get on our bosses and we don't have them offset. So let's focus on the center one for now. So we got our heavy washer. So these washers here have like a sharp edge. Since we have a painted part, we want to make sure that sharp edge of that washer is up. And that'll keep our black top plate looking nice. So we've got that aligned. Put this on. All right. So I'm going to have that finger tight for now. Now we need to work up these fork tubes and get them centered. So let's do one at a time. I'll focus on mine. All right. I'll get my bolt started. Oh, you let go and that now it fell. All right, there you go. Yep, put the pressure. There, hold it right there. All right, got it. Yeah, this is where if anybody messes up the front end assembly, it's getting these aligned or not getting them aligned. So here's your fastener. So the trick is to get it like that and then have someone help you hold it so it doesn't fall back out by the time you get that about finger tight. All right, now we're ready for our bolt. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get our big, there we go, we got that set up. Big socket, and we're going to want to put it against the stop. And we're going to tighten our acorn nut first, our center triple tree part. We'll get that to where it's just good and snug. All right. Now the next is we're going to want to tighten these two on the top of the forks. So we've got to get our socket set up for that. Probably a 17, I think. All right, awesome. All right, let's get those two tightened. Ratchet. Snug. Okay, now next we got to do our lower clamp bolts. So these are the last we want to do in the assembly. So that's kind of like the order of operation. We want to get our center tree tight, then our outside bolts, then our triple clamp down here lower. All right, good and snug. All right, I can do this side on this side. Help you. All right, there we go. So now we'll kind of double check our drag on our bearing. We've got our forks installed the correct orientation. It's kind of a cheater when you can put the hub in, but there we go. So that's our front end. Now I can get to our handlebars and our rest of our parts and pieces. All right, Kendall, so we got it together. It's looking pretty awesome, huh?
Yes.
Cool. So I think we'll probably call it a night for tonight. Work on our handlebars and stuff for tomorrow. But I hope you liked the video. Hope it was informative. It's turned out to be a pretty cool looking bike. So if you like these parts or anything else you see, check us out on mytrailbuddy.com.